Alves, Reese Harper. He has one of his awesome team members, Ryan, on with us today. But Bill and Jared just talked about how money works in your office. Now, how does money work in your life? Some of you may have $500,000 of debt and think you're never going to have money, and then magically you have money. And you're like, I don't even know what to do with money. I never had money before. Should I put it on Robot Butcher? That's a Seinfeld joke. But Ryan Isaac from Dentist Advisors has been on with me numerous times. We've met in person. He's a key resource and sponsor of Nacho, a great guy. Ryan, thanks for being here. To orient yourself to the group, just share with us for a minute what you guys do and how you help dentists.
Yeah, what's happening, man? Thanks for having me. We are Dentist Advisors. So we're personal financial advisors for dentists around the country. That's all we work with. We're a fee-only fiduciary financial advisor for dentists. We've been doing it for about 15 years, and that's all we do, man. Although I will say, it's been a long time, but you have more acronyms than I still even understand.
My whole word, I'm just gonna communicate in acronyms. Also, I brought this special, I like the gym, so I don't know if you can handle a weight of this size.
That's a little over my pay grade.
1,000 bicep curls in honor of Mark's 1,000 podcast.
Good call.
You guys are dealing with dentists at all ages and stages of their career in a financial advisory role. I asked a little bit for this show about scariest stories, awareest stories, and you can relate it to the pandemic. You can relate it to anything. What are something where a dentist has come to you and been like, and you said, and wish they'd come to you sooner, or had not realized they didn't have a good treatment plan for their money outside the office?
Yeah, first of all, it's such a good analogy. I think all the time I might be one of these patients, just being very self-aware right now.
Yeah.
But people treat, as human nature, we treat finances like a lot of people treat dentistry. You don't show up to do the routine stuff that we think is like a pain or doesn't matter. And then we only showed up when there's a major problem and lots of pain. So, the previous guest you just had on, Bill and
Jared.
Okay, awesome. I love what they were saying. To answer this question, what I think is, there's lots of scary, crazy money stories out there. Humans are crazy with money in general. That's just human nature. But I like what they were saying, and they were relating this to the practice side of things. And I think this is probably the number one biggest, scariest mistake dentists make with their personal finances too, which is just spending a whole career, and by the way, a whole career in high income, high cash flow, steady cash flow, a lot of moving pieces, but spending that career with just no organization, right? Not having a plan for things. And we call it on our podcast a lot. We call it random acts of finance. And that's what ends up happening when you're busy and you have a lot of money. There's like this false sense of security with high income, that everything's fine because the bank account just keeps receiving money. So everything's like, okay. And I think that's probably like the biggest, scariest problem. That's the most common issue. It's the most common underlying thread in personal financial problems is just spend a long career making random decisions. So for example, it might be, 1 month, the student loans are bugging you. So you just chuck your extra money to student loans. The next month let's finally get let's put the down payment on the cabin. And then the month after that, it's furniture for the cabin. And then the month after that, it's like, let's do the 401k. And so you just kind of like do that, every month randomly for a few decades of a career. And that's not uncommon. And it's just a product of being really busy and successful at the same time and just not having a lot of time. So.
I love that, Ryan. What I like to share, I'm someone, my favorite thing to do, I know people think I do a million things, but I love speaking. I really do. I love it. I love speaking. I've done it for years. I've invested in it. I've, taken training, and the world of speaking has transformed a lot, right? So if someone was a new speaker and they came to me and said, I'm going to spend $10,000 and learn how to speak because I want to go get honorariums, lecturing at study clubs, I say, that's not a good idea. I say, I'd work more on your Zoom speaking. That world has changed. So this is what you need in your life. Someone that is not related to you, someone that you pay to say, do you think this is a good idea? Because those random acts of finances, we do see this with exercise, okay? People get a Nordic track and then they hang clothes on it because they thought it was a good idea. This might happen with some Pelotons over the pandemic. I'm not sure. So what happens is, if you had a personal trainer who'd say, am I the type of person who should invest $2,500 in a Peloton and pay $50 a month? Some person would say, yes, you're very committed. I can see you. That's going to help you. Other people would be like, you haven't shown up to our last 5 sessions. How about you do this first? So is this what you're seeing, in the dental journey? And talk about a financial treatment plan for a minute. Also, to reach out, they are awesome key resource and sponsor. Just text ADVISE to 55444, and you'll connect with Reese Ryan and his team. What's an example of a good decision for a dentist? And maybe a dentist who's 4 or 5 years out of school, they're an associate, they think they want to buy a practice. What would fit into like a good decision in their financial world to prepare to be a practice owner?
Yeah, I mean, that specific example is great because at that point in a career, there's probably nothing more important than nailing what the career is going to be, right? Where are you going to live? What's sustainable? What kind of practice do you don't want to work in? What kind of dentistry you want to do? So the treatment plan for that person would be put your time and your resources, your money into making that decision the most optimal and give yourself the most amount of opportunities, which means be liquid, have cash. Making big life decisions is a million times better when we've got money in our bank account that we get have access to. So if you're like, oh, I might move to another city or state, or I might buy a practice, or I'm going to move here and try being an associate for a while, like make those decisions with money in the bank. Don't give up your extra $1,000 or $2,000 that you made that month or saved to the student loan company. Like, just don't do that yet,
And I liked it, right? I want to share this about you too. Like, one of the things that Bart Simpson from our, I think you're younger than me, but he wrote on the board.
I don't know.
I would be like, don't buy house prior to practice.
Yeah, for
why?
Sure.
Because lots of houses, not many practices. Here's why. Some is not financial, it's emotional. Once you buy house, you do not want to move from house. When you rent, you're flexible. So I'm a broker, and I talk to dentists and say, hey, I have a great practice an hour and a half away. They say, we just bought a house.
Sorry, bought a house. Yeah.
And so it's a financial emotion. So those are the things that you want to run by people before you make this. One more before we go is, what's your guys' podcast? The Dentist Money Show, right?
Yeah, Dentist Money Show.
Let's drop in. You guys have an amazing podcast. We have the dentalamigos.com. Rob Montgomery, my good friend, advisor, and partner, he always says, one of the things that's not intuitive is, watch this. Don't spend all your extra money paying off your loans, because then when you go to buy a practice, you may not be considered a good risk if you have $5 in the bank, but you don't have loans. And that, to me, Ryan, was an eye-opener when I learned that from Rob. Cool. Because you would think, oh, pay down your debt. But if you want to buy a dental practice, you need to have access, like you said, to cash in the bank. So I think that's such an important, good financial decision for someone at that stage.
Totally, man. Totally. And I like what you said. I mean, to wrap it up, I like what you said. The gym analogy lands with me really well. I'm a big, big fitness health person. And it's funny, after the shutdown, my gym closed down. I've been garage gymming it for 6 months. And even as much as I feel like I understand, I'm pretty dedicated to it, I still pay somebody remote. I still pay a coach remotely to tell me what to do every single day, how many seconds to rest between things, and what to do, what not to do, because that's human nature. We need a third party that we're paying in a fair way. Financial industry has a lot of caveats to how you pay people, and you got to pay a fee-only fiduciary. That matters a lot, but you pay a third party who's not emotionally attached to your decision-making. Yeah. And you're just way more likely to make better decisions and have better outcomes, for sure.
I think that's awesome. I'm going to leave us with, if you have not seen this episode of this comedian, his special, Aren't You Embarrassed by Sebastian Maniscalco, some of the best TV you could ever see. But I'm going to use this example. Yeah. The reason why you pay a trainer, even though you know what to do, or somebody pays someone to do this, because they don't want to embarrass themselves by saying they didn't do it. So I don't know if that's ego or not ego, but you want to say, I did this thing. I put my money in my 401k. So you don't want to be embarrassed when Reese and his team say, did you save it? And it's such a great human experience, because someone holding you accountable that you're going to be embarrassed if you don't do it is so great.
Huge.
That's why coaches have coaches, trainers have trainers. And what's great about what you guys do is this is accessible to people at reasonable rates. So how can people reach out to you guys, Ryan? What's the best way? We have our text code. But what's the best way to reach out to dentist advisors?
Great. Best thing is the website, dentistadvisors.com. You can find the podcast, the Dentist Money Show there, and probably years worth of content. As much as you'd ever want to learn or listen to or watch.
Yeah, I've been on a couple episodes. They're great. So check back after this. I'll be huge in a couple days here, Ryan. So have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.